Are you ready to go, pal?
I can be ready.
And welcome back to the Nassaumen Hockey Podcast, episode 100.
100. Unbelievable.
As always, I'm James Nichols from the fourth period, and with me, as always, is my good buddy, John Zella. We hit triple digits, pal.
Crazy. And we're doing it in broad daylight. That might have something to do with the clocks changing, but we're doing this in it seems like really early.
Yeah, so if you're watching this on YouTube, looks clearer or a little bit better, it's because the time of day has changed and we're not, relying on fluorescence.
Yeah, it's both earlier and lighter out. They might have something to do with one another.
It definitely feels later. I know it looks earlier. It feels in my body later. I'm exhausted today.
Man, I don't know what it is. After 30, daylight savings, whatever these time changes are killing me.
Yeah,
just absolutely killing me. I couldn't figure out when to go to bed last night because you're watching the Islander game. It's early, but it's not early. And I woke up and I all out of sorts. The dog didn't wake me up on time. It felt like it was late. I had a weird morning. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, daylight savings really messes with you, and as I prepare for a baby, I keep being told, wait until the baby's here for daylight savings because they don't take it well either. And I'm like, how much could they know? They're just a baby. And apparently it's a whole process that I have to go through to readjust my child to their sleeping patterns. So we'll see what happens. I got a couple months for that. And then next year, will be my first go at it. So
yeah,
wish me luck.
Is that the most annoying thing so far about telling people you're having a kid is all the unsolicited advice?
Oh yeah, I get a ton of it.
That's got to be miserable.
Fun. Yeah,
I understand it's not like having a dog and a kid. There's like a lot of similarities, but it's like my dog is a mutt, and whenever I bring it somewhere, they're like, "Oh, what kind of dog is it?" And then they go on to tell me what it is.
Yeah.
Like they ignore what I say. They're not really looking for my answer unless it validates their own thing. So I don't, I never appreciate the unsolicited advice. It's very annoying.
I actually watched an interesting video the other day on this man talking about how it's more difficult to take care of a dog than it is a child. And I've never had to take care of a child before, so I can't say whether it is or it isn't, but it sounded convincing, and I'm not here to say whether it is or is not, but yeah, I don't know. I was surprised at how convinced I almost was, and then I was like, well, I'll find out for myself soon.
I think I saw the same one. It's like kids aren't eating your shoes
and
going through the garbage. Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's like I said, it's not exactly the same. Like I understand there are easier parts. The dog grows up much quicker. And you can like train it and all that. The kid's gonna take some time to be remotely self-sufficient, or that you don't need to be around it at all times. It can't even start with a blanket. Like you're dealing with a completely different thing. But yeah, it has its hectic moments.
Yeah, I mean, I have 3 dogs, and I've had them all since
in your home.
Yeah,
in your apartment now.
Not currently.
Okay.
When I lived with my parents, I owned 3 dogs, and I bought them all myself. I adopted them all myself, trained them all myself, and it was not an easy process. And all of the the on that checklist of they eat your shoes, they eat your furniture, those all check out. It's 100% true. They do those things, and it's not easy to get them to stop. Eventually, they do. But so I don't know. Maybe that was my training for fatherhood. Maybe maybe I'm now more well prepared to handle certain situations, or maybe
hurt.
I'm just speaking out of my ass.
It doesn't. I don't think it hurts because it's the same kind of, especially like you're a little bit of your day to day. Like it's like having a puppy. I would a puppy and a baby are probably closer than maybe like a toddler or something.
Yeah.
Because I think it tends to get other things about having a kid seems to get harder when they get to a certain age. But I also do not have a kid. I only have a dog and take care of myself. I make tacos on a Friday and I eat it for 4 days. And that like my life is very easy.
Yeah.
So I don't good for you, man. I don't plan on having a kid anytime soon anyway. Not necessarily not in the cards. So good luck.
Thanks, man. This is a hockey podcast, right? That's what we do here.
I don't know.
Well,
It's an hour earlier or later. I can't tell. It's light out. I did scarf down a burrito before this, so
very nice. Well,
recovering.
the first domino has fallen previous to the trade deadline. I guess you could say it's the second domino because Tyler Toffoli was traded almost like a month ago now.
Yeah, but like the
leading,
trade deadline is like a week to 10 days before the deadline.
so
All the deals around the deadline happen.
so leading
now.
up to the trade deadline, it seems the first domino has fallen. Josh Manson to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for a prospect and a 2023 second round pick. The Avs are loading up because they're the best team in the NHL, getting ready to go on a
They
run.
need to win. They need to
I
win.
think they need to win too. Disappointing upset last year when they were eliminated from the playoffs a little earlier than anticipated. But before we talk about trade deadline stuff, I think we're going to close the show out with that today.
Yeah, I want to talk more about NHL stuff first.
Yeah, that's
I know
what
we don't have it. You have general NHL things you want to talk about, like trade deadline things.
No, it's good. We were going to start with the Islanders and how they did this week. Do you want to start there, or do you have comments?
I don't know. I just have comments, like general questions.
Go ahead.
NHL. Are the Colorado Avalanche the pick? Like, are they the ones? Because Vegas is weird. And
Vegas is spiraling.
Even with Eichel, or without Stone, with Eichel. Are
no
they
Leonard?
No
Leonard's
Leonard
out again.
So are the Avalanche the
Avalanche? I think are the consensus right now.
I feel like for a long time it was the St. Louis Blues. They're really good. They got to get over the hump. And I feel like Colorado is that. They don't have that big drop off before St. Louis won. They've been pretty consistently good, especially this season. But
yeah,
I'm wondering if they're the Capitals group or the St. Louis group, where they're really good in the regular season every single year and just can't get over that hump in the playoffs. I wonder if this is their year, especially if Vegas isn't, because a lot of the other teams are very inexperienced compared to the Avalanche. I'm wondering if you think they're the West pick.
Yeah, no, if I had to pick a team, I think it's the Avalanche. I think that they are one of the teams that you can parallel to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have had success, also went through some hardships in the process of having that success, and are now coming back with a vengeance. I mean, they have just so much talent on that team. Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen.
Who's hurt? Who's out?
Gabe Landeskog just got surgery. He'll be out for 4 weeks.
Which is a crazy timeline. That was immediately my thought. I'm like, 4 weeks.
I was listening.
I kind of have a cold right now. I'm out for like 3. Like, I feel like I could be out for 3 weeks.
So I was listening to 32 Thoughts, the podcast earlier today, and Elliot Friedman was talking about how this was something that they've known about. This was something that even before the season started, they knew they had to do. And now they're at the point where they're in a comfortable place where they're definitely going to make the playoffs. And this is something that isn't like a major surgery. Something just needs to get cleaned up. So he'll be out for 4 weeks. Kind of feels like the window now to acquire Claude Giroux opens up for them a little bit more.
What's his cap hit though?
I don't know off the top of my head.
It feels like a hefty, like a $7 million or $8 million amount, if not
could
more.
Be. Yeah, could be. But
8.275 is Giroux.
Okay, yeah. So, but I mean, with Landeskog going to LTIR for sure, and I think also Sam Girard is going to be on LTIR. He might miss the remainder of the season, so they've got some money to play with. They just also acquired Josh Manson, but
at 50%.
At 50%, so they do have money to play with, and Claude Giroux does seem like the perfect fit to fill the void of Gabe Landeskog for the time being, and also add to what is just an outstanding roster. I didn't even mention Cal McCarr, who's the best defenseman in the NHL in my eyes.
Or one of them, like,
Well,
if for in his own right anyway,
yeah,
like his own style. Avalanche have $4 million in cap space before anything happens.
right.
Landeskog's a $7 million cap hit. That timing, that 4-week time frame might not work out, that window.
Yeah, maybe not.
If Girard is out, that's $5 million.
Yeah.
And if he comes back in the first round, that definitely helps out.
Yeah, so they could technically spend 9.
Yeah. Something so that's pretty much Drew if that's the case.
Right.
Um, as long as they know what the timeline is for Girard and it's not stretching anything too thin, although see the Tampa Bay Lightning for cap shenaniganery. So
Right.
I guess anything can happen. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to leading up to next Monday what's to see what's going to happen because in my opinion and this is we all know a couple weeks ago I reported that the Avalanche were interested in Semyon Var Lamov. I do think that their goaltending is their weakest spot um throughout the lineup. No slight to Darcy Kemper. He's a great goaltender. Francouz is a good backup, but I do think that they would like to maybe beef up that tandem if they could. More about that later, though, regarding the Colorado Avalanche, Semyon Varlamov. Any other thoughts, NHL wise, before we head into the New York Islanders?
What do you make of the Florida Panthers? Is this their first year of many being really good
Yeah.
in like are they at the beginning of their Colorado Avalanche story where
Yes.
they might make it kind of depending on they have to play in the first round? I see them as a second or third round team. I don't think they're the front runner in the East. I think you still have to go with Tampa Bay. And then kind of if Toronto gets a goalie and they can like a good goalie, a Varlamov caliber or a Fleury caliber type, they're going to be really scary in the East. I don't know
Yeah.
that Florida's. I mean, they are amazing. They could
Yeah.
definitely go on a run if Bobrovsky just plays really well. Are they just not there yet? Are they like the beginning of their journey?
So it's entirely possible, right? You can't count them out because they score a ridiculous amount of goals. I was also listening to the PDO cast this morning and they score like 3.5 or 3.6 goals a game, which is far and away the most in the NHL. Um, they score at a ridiculous pace and that's great for this team. And I think that for a long time they will be one of the top teams in the NHL. However, the caveat to that is, you look at what the Lightning went through and you look at what the Avalanche are going through with all of that talent, they still, for some reason, don't get to the final destination, right? And that's because of a lack of experience. Barkov, Huberdeau, Ekblad, those are like the core pieces of the Florida Panthers. And then, that's also buoyed by um, uh, Carter Verhaeghe, Anthony Duclair, Sam Reinhart, all excellent players. None of those players, however, have really gone deep into the postseason.
Including Bobrovsky, who's
And
no
that's
no slouch.
exactly who
They
I was
do have a
going to.
Thornton.
Right.
So they
Joe
have pieces, but
Joe Thornton has never won a cup, so he hasn't actually gotten to that point yet
yeah,
himself
but
either.
he's been to a final.
No, of course. Yes, I won't take that away from him, but hasn't closed the door. Unfortunately, I hope he does, but he hasn't done it yet. And Sergei Bobrovsky in the playoffs is known to not show up. He had that one postseason where he was lights out, and the only reason why the Blue Jackets lost was because they didn't play well in front of him. But more often than not in the postseason, Sergei Bobrovsky is not great. So and the situation with Spencer Knight has been interesting. He's been up and down, and I
To be
believe
expected.
Montembeau has been in and out, depending on night status. So um, I do see the Florida Panthers as a serious threat. And if they won it all this season, would I be surprised? No. Do I think it happens? Not yet, just because of the lack of experience. I understand how great they are right now, but the playoffs is a totally different animal. And I'd be really interested to see what kind of game they can keep pace with headed into the playoffs because we haven't seen that yet. So um, I would love to see it. And listen, the Panthers have some really young pieces too with Lundell. Sam Reinhart's still young. He's only like 25. I know they have a couple of prospects that are really good, like Owen Tippett. I know they sent him down, but I think he's got like 11 goals already in like only a handful of games down there, and they're anticipating him coming back up well. Grigory Denisenko. So they're set up for a long time to be successful.
I wonder if they can make a move at the deadline for some
Yeah, I
experience
wouldn't be
where, right?
surprised.
I think it's hard because maybe I'm just paying attention closer to the East, but a part of me thinks a lot of the better pieces are in the East that are looking to move. And I don't know that people do that unless they're UFAs. I don't know that people are going to deal within the East. So I don't know who would help them out. Like Giroux, who also hasn't won a cup, he has a gold medal with Team Canada, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
and from 2014. But that's a piece where you think, okay, maybe if he can go to the Panthers and really up their game and their power play or something, or just a really good player. Like I don't really know who's available in the East that will deal with Florida, or that could go get dealt to Florida rather. So I don't know the West that well to say, oh, these players are available and they'd be a good fit or something.
Well, speaking of the West, here's some breaking news that actually changes the dynamic of this trade deadline. Jacob Chikrin suffered an lower body injury the other day. He's out 2 to 4 weeks, and the trade deadline is in a week. So
I don't think you can trade players on LTIR.
that
That sounds
might
like a
be a
thing.
thing. No, well, that's not true because people trade or teams trade for each other's contracts on LTIR all the time.
And that might be something different. Or
Maybe.
maybe IR versus LTI. I think LTIR maybe, but maybe not IR.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the clarification of that, but we could tweet it out and get back to you on that in the future. But interesting dynamic with Jacob Chikrin there. Do teams hold off on trading for him because that 4 week timeline possibility? Does that maybe open the door for the Islanders to make a hockey trade if the opportunity presents itself? Last I heard, Lamoriello was quiet on the Chikrin front, but you can never count him out, is what I'm told.
I'm kind of. We'll talk about the Islanders later, like trade
Yeah.
stuff. But I am sick of that narrative around him. Just because it's like, all right, so don't think about it. It's not even worth speculating for the most
Yeah.
part. Just
Listen,
because.
like we like to borrow from our favorite podcast over at 32 Thoughts, we're not telling you the truth. We're just telling you what we hear.
Oh, 100%. It's just even just like strictly speaking about the Islanders and
Yeah.
literally like it's just so aggravating. It's like, well, we're not really hearing anything, but and it's like, okay, then nothing. Please don't. It doesn't like if there's chatter from
I
other
think
teams.
it's situational.
Yeah, maybe. It's just
It
very
depends on
annoying.
the player. For instance, I just tweeted out earlier that I continue to ask about pending UFA Zach Parise and if there's interest for him. I keep getting told I haven't heard anything from a source. And that's surprising to me because he's a player who's playing excellent hockey right now.
Yeah, but
And I
they're
can't
well,
imagine for instance, the Colorado Avalanche wouldn't like to have Zach Parise in their bottom 6 for a mid-round pick.
well, let's hit pause on that before we get too excited because I don't want to spill the beans on the trade talk.
Okay.
So
Let's
on
pause
the
it.
Islanders front, I wanted to try to do a little more NHL stuff because there was some things breaking. But
Sure.
let's jump to the winning streak and go from there. We'll jump back to Zach Parise later.
Yeah, so 3-game winning streak for the Islanders currently, which is the first one of the season, and it is March 13th is when that started. They played Sunday, another win against the Anaheim Ducks. That was the confirmed first 3-game win streak of the season uh,
In
by
regulation,
March 13th
I
in
believe,
regulation.
which is still yikes. It's March.
Yeah, so that just tells you the kind of year it's been for the Islanders. But regardless, 4 games this week, 3 wins. It was a really good week. I remember it was funny because I was sitting down to get ready to record with you, and for some reason I was just thinking about how the podcast started last week, and I was like, how's it going? And you were like, it's been rough, and I'm like, isn't it getting tougher? And then suddenly this week things just turned around, and that's
After that Colorado game, it was much
yeah,
much better to digest the
and
rest of
and
that
that's
week.
largely due to some standout players. Let's start with Brock Nelson, who is just the definition of consistency for the Islanders. Continues to score night in and night out. I think he's up to 23 goals, and if he were to play 82 games this season, he would be on pace for 40 goals.
Yeah,
Um,
23 goals in 30 games. Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry, in 47 games.
yeah.
I
So
read his age
I
instead
think
of
he's
his
gonna
game plan.
finish the year playing 75 games. He's something at like a 37 goal pace right now, which is still excellent. It'll be his first 30 goal year if he actually gets there, barring injuries. Knock on wood. Hopefully, he stays healthy. Um,
It'll
we
be a
spoke.
career year either way.
Oh, it's definitely going to be a career year. We spoke last week about, the talk of should they trade Brock Nelson, but I again with the way the Islanders played this week, you're really starting to see, shades of what they thought they could be.
I know,
So,
and I had that as a thought later for the trade stuff.
okay.
And that's again, that makes things really complicated because you're 100% right. And that
Yeah.
was my thought. I was like, "Oh, man, they're gonna ruin everything."
Yeah, so I
You
mean
know,
that
they're gonna go on
that
a run here, and they're gonna ruin it.
this is the thing, and you and I have continued to speak about going through the hardships and coming out on the other side better. This is a sacrificial year,
Oh,
but
it became that. It was
it
it was,
right, it
as
became that.
a title of a Steve Dangle podcast episode, "Bad on Accident."
Right, bad
And that
on
was
accident.
and that was the Islanders' season. It was
Yeah,
they and now, extenuating circumstances aside, they were also bad.
yeah,
They also lost 2 bad teams. You can't, there's no reason their system and the way that they play shouldn't have been more plug and play. They should have won more games.
yeah, but now you're starting to see guys who that the Islanders at the beginning of the season thought they could depend on starting to pick it up. Starts with Nelson. Um, and it's not just the goal scoring for him either. He's dependable in all three zones. He's hounding you on the back check. He's making sure you're feeling the pressure on the forecheck. He's excellent in the faceoff dot this year. He's been really good
50%.
taking faceoffs. And again, just a pure goal scorer. It's interesting because we always talk about the Islanders lack a pure goal scorer, and I think for it was leading up to this for a little while, and this year really solidified that Brock Nelson is the Islanders' best goal scorer. Um, we knew that last year too, but now that it looks like he's finally gonna reach the 30 goal plateau. Even though at 30 years old, he's just not a player at this time that leading up to the trade deadline, you're not going to say, yeah, we're going to move this player. He's one of the key pieces that they're going to need next season to get back to the playoffs and go on another run.
I couldn't agree more.
Anders Lee, the third star of the week throughout the NHL. I believe he was the third star of the game yesterday. Had a hat trick this week, his first career. 7 goals, 8 points in 4 games. Looks like Anders Lee of old is back.
In a different type of role, like back with Nelson and playing with
Yes.
Beauvillier. Um, that's a question I think we've asked before, kind of wondering if the first line wasn't working out, how do you incorporate Lee, this season and into the future? As we think about what the lineup might look like next year. I know we kind of defaulted to Lee as a third line player. Um, and as we said, until Barzell gets somebody that rides shotgun, this team has 3 second lines for all intents and
Yeah.
purposes. So having Lee being able to play with Nelson gives you a little bit of uh, foresight into what might happen next season. That's good to know that this line is working out.
Yeah.
And then who's playing with Peugeot? I don't even remember what that line looked like.
uh, who did play with Peugeot yesterday?
Was that Bay?
It
Yeah,
was
well, it must have been
Bailey
Bailey and
and
Palmieri.
Palmieri. Yeah.
So, and then Parise, who could take a lower spot in the lineup or, fourth line, whatever in the future, although he's playing well. And again, you just really hope that doesn't change, cloud rather Lamrell's vision of what this team needs, and Trotz's vision of what this team needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No.
yeah, anyway, Lee's playing really well. This is where it looks like he's coming back from injury and is okay. Like he's kind of hitting his stride. I don't want to say at the right time, but better late than never to know.
Yeah. So there were comments about that actually. After yesterday's post game, and they were talking about the injury, and typically, Trotz had mentioned it typically takes about a year for the injury that Lee had to heal. And almost to the day he scores his hat trick. And that actually might have been when the comments were made. Almost to the day is when he scored his hat trick. And then
It
Lee
was the
went on to
next
talk
day.
about,
I think Joe posted it. Joe Pantorno
yeah,
tweeted it, and then the
yeah,
next day or 2 days later, he had a hat trick.
yeah, he scores the hat trick. And Lee commented on, I'm starting to feel more confident in the knee. The problem that he had all year was not just physically, but also mentally wondering and worrying, is it gonna, just snap again? Is something going to go wrong with it? Am I going to get hurt again? Am I fully healed? And he said it was part mental, part physical. And now he's just in a really good place, feeling really good about the knee, feeling healthy, and feeling good about his game. And I don't know how much that had to do with actually him switching lines and off of Barzell's line and now with Nelson. It's working, which is great. But for him, it was really just more a physical and a mental struggle, just focusing on that knee that he wanted to make sure was healthy, fully healthy, and wasn't going to give out on him again. Because that was a nasty injury that he went through.
Have you ever done something like that?
No,
I remember when I hurt my shoulder playing, it was really hard to go back out there and start laying a hit or
yeah,
going back and not, look, I'm not Cal Clutterbuck, but it just even being hit or whatever side of it that you're on, it was definitely scary to go back out there and get involved.
yeah, and I could only imagine. I was fortunate enough, and I don't know how. I played all the physical sports: football, hockey, lacrosse. I was banging bodies all the time. That was the kind of player I was. Never had I, thankfully, suffered an injury like that. But I can imagine what it does to you because my days as a player, was I was a bull in a china shop, if you will. That's what my coach used to tell me. You're a bull in a china shop. And the way, playing lacrosse, from behind the net, I would just lower a shoulder, lay a hit on somebody, and because I was so physical, the defender would move out of the way, and I get a shot on net. I did the same thing for hockey too, as a winger. Uh, these are my coach's words, and yeah, I just was blessed with not having suffered an injury, and I could only imagine how much more hesitant I would have been to make those kinds of plays had I not,
Oh,
or had I suffered an injury.
100%.
Yeah,
Even like I've had some knee injuries, not like both wound up not like no surgery, just like recovery time.
yeah,
But even the knee, like um, even now when I play beer league, like sometimes I'll turn, I'm like, is this the one? Like is it, like you just never know. And like I've definitely fallen weird. Like anytime I kind of get dumped in front of the net because I'm a small guy, and these some of these guys just like play physical because they are angry at their whole life and this is where they get their aggravation out. So they're just jerks out there. But like you get tossed in front of the net and I just close my eyes. I'm like, please don't fall weird. Like
yeah,
try to get my legs out from underneath me so I don't like fall on top of anything. So I can imagine Lee going through a lot of the same stuff. Not only is, feeling comfortable working out over a period of time and getting back into shape, I think is one thing.
yeah,
It's completely different when I don't want to say 50%, that's a made up number, but like 50% of it has nothing to do with you. It has to
yeah,
do with like you can run into your teammates, another teammate, a puck can hit you weird.
right.
Um, you could slide down the bench and tweak. You know what I mean? Like it's not always like the really physical stuff.
Well, you're right. I'll
Was
tell
it
you what.
Mayfield? Didn't he get hurt like they were warming up? Didn't he have like some hip thing? They were doing the
Uh,
soccer warm up. Who
that
was
was
that?
Pellick with his
Pellick.
with his
Right, all right. It was a
Achilles.
serious like dude, you could just like reach for your cereal wrong in the morning. Like
Yeah,
it's definitely scary when it's
I'll tell you what.
something physical.
The worst injury I suffered was a pulled hamstring, and I wasn't even playing the most physical sport. I was playing football, but I was playing flag football because I'm an adult now, and that's what we do.
It
We
was like
don't do
recently.
it was like 2 years ago, and my quarterback said, "Hey, you're going for a Hail Mary. We are down in this game. It's late. I need you to go for it." Sure, no problem. Next thing I know, going for the Hail Mary, running for a sprint. The quarterback hadn't even thrown the ball yet, and
Down
from the perspective of my friends, they said it looked like I got shot by a sniper, and I just went down.
and just
And
in a heap.
before I went down, they said I looked like Bugs Bunny when he extends straight, and then passes out. you know, they
Wow.
said you looked like you got shot by a sniper and you just went down. I just couldn't move my leg. My hamstring was killing me, and I just
It's
pulled it from just running. And I stretch. I do all the things I'm supposed to do before a game, and I just hurt myself running.
Your
And
wife
my
is
friend,
literally a trainer.
I know, I know. I do all the things I'm supposed to do to work out, and I still got hurt. And my friends like to make fun of me because I'm the oldest of all of them, and that's apparently what comes with old age. And I'm not anywhere near saying I'm old. I'm only 30, and this was when I was like 28. But it's part of life, right? As you get older, things start to work differently. I don't want
Oh,
to say
yes.
less, but differently. I like that.
Differently. Yeah. Yeah. You just have to be careful.
Yeah.
So and then, tying it back to Lee, it just means recovery takes a little bit longer. It sometimes it doesn't take much to re-injure things. So it's good that he's feeling confident and it's paying off for the Islanders. So
Yeah.
again, not better late than never, but again, it's kind of good as they look forward. Last remaining whatever it is, 30 something games or 30 games, um, they can look to next season and kind of just move forward.
Uh, Another player who is playing excellent right now, and he will be with the Islanders next season, is Kyle Palmieri. And we've been talking about how well he's been playing. It just feels like every game he gets better at this point, and it's great to see. Um, Great game against the Ducks on Sunday. He had 2 goals. Both were great shots. And I wasn't part of the conversation, but I was scrolling through a conversation that I was reading on Twitter about the comparison to Eberle and Palmeria at this point now. And it's so funny to see the amount of people who wanted to shoot Kyle Palmieri to the moon versus how now we've we've backtracked, and I'm seeing a lot of Kyle Palmieri is so much better than Jordan Eberle, and it's not even close.
He's almost at a half point a game. He's almost up to 10% shooting. I don't even want to know. Obviously, it was zero up until
And this
like
is what
7, 8 weeks ago.
I mentioned to you a few weeks ago. It is going to regress to the mean, meaning at the point when we had the conversation, is Kyle Palmieri going to figure this thing out? He was shooting at a 1.2% shooting percentage. I said his career 12.5 shooting percentage didn't just disappear this year. It's not going to happen. And what do you know? A couple of weeks later, now Kyle Palmieri is shooting almost 10% after not scoring more than a goal or 2 goals in like 30 something games. And he's now up to how many exactly?
9 goals.
9 goals. He is playing out of his mind good right now. I believe he had 8 points this week, 4 goals, 4 assists, and it's not just that he's scoring, he's controlling play. He's the driver on the line that he is on.
He's moving his feet.
Yeah,
I think it's again, and that's the kind of thing where if he's gonna in the future, just due to different line changes and who's playing with who next season, in addition to the team, if he is playing with someone like Pajot, you kind of hope they trade off every once in a while. Pajot goes on a little bit
right.
of run. Talking about a third line, Pajot goes on a run, Palmieri goes on a run. Someone's scoring a few goals here and there, and they kind of trade off, and that should go throughout the lineup. But you're hoping for like that third line, that type of consistent contribution, just in general from that line. If the line is scoring 2 or 3 goals a week, and it's not 3 goals in a game,
Yeah,
that's really helpful for this team. That's like, a little anemic on that side, bearing some like ridiculous offensive addition this offseason. You need that. So it's good to see because, Pajot has that ability, He had a breakaway against the Ducks. I really thought he was gonna kind of tuck that one in there, but yeah, you need that from your third line, and
Yeah.
those two guys are really good. They seem like they play well together too, and they're both really quick. It's good.
Uh, Ilya Sorokin, just proving every day that he is the clear-cut number one goaltender on his team, and that's no slight to Semyon Var Lamov, who's also playing really well. He also had a win this week. Ilya Sorokin took the other two, and a 42 shots against. He made 39 saves against Anaheim on Sunday. A perfect 25 for 25 against Columbus a few days before. So he's looking really good right now. There was one sequence of shots against Sorokin on Sunday that were particularly great, where he just, and it hurt just to watch, but the split saves, the pad saves that he made, and the athleticism that he possesses to be able to stretch the way he does
The
to make
reactions are
those saves,
amazing.
insane. It really is. And it was at first glance, I thought he was making a mistake, and I think he might have been making a mistake in misjudging where that shot was. He didn't anticipate where the shot was going correctly, and he still had the athleticism to make up for that and make the save, and not just one, but the rebound chance as well. So he is playing out of his mind, goal in the net right now. And listen, I'm a big Semyon Varlamov fan, and I think he's been great in his Islander tenure. But this is a different kind of goaltending than we've seen in a long time.
Is it? I mean, is a very different style, and we
Yeah,
talked about that before. That I think what the Islanders goaltending coaches would prefer is a more Semyon Varlamov style. That's not a lot of movement. That's very calculated and kind of stays in an area where Sorokin doesn't make these big saves because
he's
he's out of
flashy.
position, but he is a little more flashy. He does prefer to use his athleticism,
Yeah,
but he's tracking the puck. He's moving. He's young, so he just has a different mindset, and it was trained a little bit differently, and maybe just had a different skill set. He's definitely calmed down. It's you don't see it quite as often. And the goals against that I saw this weekend, with the Ducks or whatever, were uh, breakdowns in front of the net. It was guy like Dobson or Mayfield or something just wasn't, or Bavillier was coming back. It was a 3-on-3, and somehow it turned into a 2-on-1, with Bavillier kind of sliding back, trying to swipe the puck, and Mayfield was trying to block a pass and the shot at the same time, and you can't have that. It just looked like a mess out there. But so stuff like that's not Sorokin's fault.
right. No,
These little things. So you're really seeing the best from him that he can provide, given that it's not a 3-on-0.
yeah. I mean, there was some of that against the Ducks on Sunday, and Trotz had even said this wasn't our best game. We allowed 42 shots against, and if it wasn't for Sorokin being as good as he is, we might not have came out of this game with the win. So
They
uh,
played like a good 30 minutes, and then there was a lot of time in between where they let off the gas. The first period I thought was fine. The first part of the second period I thought was okay, and then it kind of was wishy washy. They'd go on a stretch where they'd have a few shifts in a row that were really good, and then they'd let off the gas,
yeah,
and then it would kind of go back and forth, and that's where they allowed these teams to kind of come back. But a strength of theirs is really locking it down.
yep,
And it's good, even if they did kinda let it go back late. They also scored 2 goals at the end of the first period with, the last minute and a half or minute. That's a little unlike them. So, they get the goals where they can, but that locking it down, we have not been able to see too much of that this season. It was a strength of theirs in at least the previous 2 seasons, probably 3 seasons. So, I'm liking it. If they can kinda get that swagger back a little bit, they proved they can come back, even though they didn't finish it against Colorado. Um, some of these better teams are just scoring 4 goals against the Avalanche is no small feat. So I
no,
think there's a smaller victory in there. Um, and then yeah, being able to shut it down, kind of classic Islander shit.
yeah. Really good look for Sorokin this week. The team as a whole played excellent hockey, and I know a lot of the chatter has been, do we really want them to do well at this point now? the answer to that for me is always going to be yes. Given
They're
the
not going to get a good
situation that
pick.
they're in.
Like they're going to be a medium bad team. Like
Yes.
you're picking in the 18, 20. Like regardless. It doesn't.
Right.
I don't know.
It's just you want to see guys like Palmieri, Lee, Nelson, and even Josh Bailey this week has been playing very well. You want to see those guys continue to do those things
Has he been
because
playing well, or is it like not very visible as far as the mistakes and got a few
no,
assists?
no, he had goals in consecutive games. There were opportunities where he had there was the one goal where he was point blank in front of the net and he opted to shoot, and guess what? He scored instead of passing it off like he has tried on multiple occasions in the past. So Josh Bailey has looked pretty good this week. I can't speak for how it's going to go next week, but it kind of looks like that benching worked a little bit. So
Yeah, I
we'll
was gonna
see
say I
where it
couldn't
goes.
even remember exactly when that happened. So yeah, however it worked out. I didn't, I do try to keep an eye on him because there are times when he's kind of um he's just not it doesn't look like he's putting any heart into it. Like he's just out there for a skate. As my mom used to say, if I was playing like a little bit of a lazy game for whatever reason, that
Right.
I was figure skating. I was just kind of there to enjoy myself.
I've heard those too.
Um, and there were a few moments where there was one in particular where he winds up getting it over to Palmieri, I think. There was one of these play or over to Wahlstrom or Parise or something happened where and he didn't look like he really tried to do anything. He kind of just like sticks his stick out. And I threw my head back going, that's not effort. And he wound up getting a piece of it, without any kind of effort. And the
Right.
puck went over and they went up scoring a goal. So I'm like, I don't know if that's a good play. If he just, happens like right, like some of it, right place at the right time means you're doing something right. You didn't just, it's not Halo. You didn't spawn in the slot and like figure it out, right? Like you can't. Is that still a thing? Do people know
Yeah.
what that is? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Good reference.
good. Whew. I didn't. I had no idea. Um, yeah, I'm not up to date on my video games. Me and my Super Mario. That no idea what's going on.
Nothing wrong with
But
that.
yeah, I think I'm trying to pay attention to him in short, and I don't see a ton of mistakes. I'm not seeing kind of Twitter blow up every single time he touches the puck. So
Yeah.
um, some of it might be who he's playing with,
Could be.
and things kind of calming down around him, um, and other players picking up the slack. So yeah, he's playing all right to me. I can't complain, and that's kind of enough out of him.
Let's talk about the
Unfortunately,
let's talk about the next big topic on the agenda. The newly formed quote unquote third line of Mathew Barzell with Zach Parise and Oliver Wahlstrom. Finally, right? Finally, Oliver Wahlstrom on the right side of Mathew Barzell for one game. Uh, I thought it was an excellent game
for
for
the
that
line,
line.
for that line,
Thought it was an excellent game for that line.
when they were together, yes, there were a lot of 4-on-4 opportunities
Yes,
and things where
we're gonna talk
Wallstrom,
about that. We're
yeah,
gonna talk about that. But first, I just want to run the numbers. Okay, it took 2 minutes and 18 seconds for that line to create a scoring chance in that game. They opened the scoring in that game. 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Barzell gets the puck in the slot. Only reason, or one of the reasons why that play started was Wahlstrom doing a good job on the forecheck, banging bodies with Cam Fowler, essentially taking him out of the play, forcing the puck up to the newly traded Josh Manson, who was being harassed by Zach Parise. Turnover was forced. Barzell picks up the puck in the slot and passes it over to Parise for the tap in. The line as a whole played excellent. They had a Corsi for percentage of 69.23, a goals for percentage of 100, obviously, an expected goals for of 73.96, and high danger Corsi for percentage of 75%. A 3 high danger chances for, 1 against. And as I said last night, these are some pretty elite numbers, albeit there were some questions about Oliver Wahlstrom's minutes. And here's what I want to do. I want to cut right to Barry Trotz's comments on Oliver Wahlstrom's minutes.
We asked you about the Barzell combination before the game. They got off to a fast start, but Wally's ice time was kind of decreased.
Yeah, I wouldn't look at that. I'm going to look at their 5-on-5. I mean, there was a couple times where there was a little more 4-on-4, and then the special teams kick in, and you sometimes where you're feeling really good about a player, and Wally was fine. Situational stuff, even at the end of the game when they had the 4-on-4, I sort of guarded against them pulling their goaltender and having guys that don't necessarily kill if they pull their goaltender on a 4-on-4 situation. So you lose minutes there. You lose some on a 4-on-4, which Wally does not do at this point anyways. And so, the minutes get decreased a little bit. And, I mean, they had more minutes than Casey and Clutter, and then all of a sudden you look at the score sheet after, all these different situations, and Clutter and Casey have more. So you can look at that. If you ask me how did he play in his 5-on-5, I was happy with Wally's game.
So that was my assumption last night. Was I didn't necessarily see anything that Oliver Wahlstrom did throughout the game that might have gotten him benched in the third period. So the way I took it was the third period started with the Islanders on the penalty kill. There were a number of penalties throughout that third period that caused the Islanders to go 4-on-4 or down.
Coincidentals. Zizekas had a couple. It was a little bit of Johnson had his little whatever. So it was made it a little complicated.
And the power play, Wahlstrom's currently not on it. He was a healthy scratch the game before this one, and because of that, Trotz filled that void, and he likes the units right now. So, and that's fine. It's fine that he doesn't have Wahlstrom there right now, and I know he's the trigger guy, and he's the shooter at this time right now. He sees something that's working with the power play, and he wanted to stick to it. Now they went 0 for 2 on Sunday against the Ducks, and maybe that'll change next game. But the point here is that in the third period, yes, he only played 7 minutes and 30 seconds in total. But in the third period, there were a lot of reasons for him not to be on the ice. And that's because of all the special teams play that was happening.
Yeah, I'll say this about I understand all the high danger and all, the shot percentages, whatever. What I didn't like was his shot selection. I don't think that that's reason enough to not play him. But I saw there were a couple shots where he gets the puck. The Islanders kind of bringing around the horn there. He's off in absolute no man's land below the circle near the goal line, and he lets a shot go. And I'm like,
I find it
that seems. I understand what you're trying to do, and because they do go in, but if you miss the net, it's a free clear.
I find it interesting that is your concern for Wahlstrom, just because
it's not a concern. If I say again, I'm probably nitpicking. I'm saying, like, out of something I didn't like that was annoying to me from someone that has the ability to pass the puck. It's not like he was in the slot and passed it. He didn't pull a Josh Bailey. He was nowhere at least twice. I think
I understand.
I
understand physically on the ice where he was might have seemed odd.
He was below the hash mark.
However, I understand the point. I do. I understand the point. However, we're talking about a team here who doesn't put the puck on net as much as they should.
Yeah, but that's not a high danger chance.
I understand, but we're constantly talking about just get the pucks on net. Things happen when you put pucks on net. I don't mind. He had 5 shots in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. I assume that if he had more time, he would have more than 5 shots. And I would say 60% of those shots would be quality shots versus the other few shots that he throws on net. Listen, things happen when you put pucks on net.
I understand that.
The Islanders don't do it enough. So if he's going to do it from all different angles, I have no problem. I saw that shot too. It was basically from the boards, from the left of the left circle.
Yeah,
I saw that
in the little space between the end of the circle and the goal line.
I didn't mind it. because he
look,
puts other quality shots on net as well.
I mean, that doesn't. I understand where you're coming from. I just want them to, like the last 2 seasons, they were known for. They
Yeah,
weren't putting a lot of shots on net, but a lot of them were high danger. They were gonna get you, and that we saw that in the Tampa Bay series last year. You're only scoring 2 or 3 goals a game on a few shots, but that's a lot better of a percentage. I'm not saying don't do it. Other teams have success barraging you, and they're
right.
definitely shooting more this season. I'd love to know their shots per game through this point in the season or through 50 something games, all of last season and 50 something games this season to see if it's remotely the same, and their high danger chances versus like kind of lower quality shots. But yeah, like I said, I couldn't think of a reason other than just time management with 4-on-4s and special teams and whatnot late in the game, whatever. That was the only thing that I saw. I don't particularly like that kind of shit.
I'm
It
not
doesn't.
advocating for him to do it more. If that's one of the few times he's gonna do it, it
I
doesn't
mean,
bother me.
yeah,
Because again, this team doesn't get pucks on net enough as it is.
yeah, but like I said, it's about the quality. That's
I
what
understand.
they've gone on for 2 seasons. Just talked about that.
Uh,
For two s-
I
for two
I
seasons,
understand.
that was their whole thing. They've gotten a little loosey with it. It may just been because they had, oatmeal lines and it just didn't matter. You couldn't, nothing was sticking together and it was just mush most of the time. But, if the strategy changed, that's also fine. They can adapt to what's working and what's not working. But I don't know that if I had to nitpick one thing, I don't like that.
Well, regardless, it was a good game for that line as a whole. I am optimistic we'll see it again. Trotz seemed to be happy with the trio, as was Parise. And here's what he had to say on the newly formed Parise, Barzell, and Wahlstrom line.
I thought we had some great looks, especially in the first. We had a lot of, you get one early and you're starting to feel it a little bit. And then we had some good cycles. We had some good exchanges, some give and goes. And we all had scoring chances. And I liked our possession. I liked our puck possession. I liked how we got the puck back when there was a 50-50. And again, if we stay together, we'll keep communicating. And I think that's been the key, especially with Barzy and I just talking, finding out where he wants me to go when he's got the puck. And we're learning about each other and we can continue to grow together.
So I don't know if there is actually a better player to be playing with for Wahlstrom than Parise. I think that they could be cut from the same cloth, a former 30 plus, 40 plus goal scorer. They listen, Zach Parise is faster, but in all other facets of the game, they're not afraid to get into the dirty areas, they're not afraid to be physical, and they both have really good shots.
I think they're very different. I kind of see what you're saying as far as like a veteran who works hard and all of that. Wahlstrom is physical when he's angry, and which I could see him getting into a position where he gets a suspension in the future by doing something really dumb.
I don't think he's only physical when he's angry.
He seems like he
said
makes
earlier.
He does do it on he does do it other times, but I also see him kind of like I feel like when he gets pissed off.
Oh yeah, but that's that's any young player will
yeah, maybe he's a little heady.
Yeah,
but he's young. Yeah, I think they play a little bit different. Parise is kind of good at a bunch of stuff, where Wahlstrom's really good at a couple things. But I can appreciate that as far as the veteran player that Parise is, that he works hard, that he's really genuine. He understands the game really well. He's had success in a lot of different places. Like, yes, I can understand from that perspective. Very good player for Wahlstrom to be playing with.
Yeah, again, a former 30 plus, a former 40 plus goal scorer. I think that he can learn a ton of valuable lessons from a guy like Parise. So, and I think that he was excited at the fact to be playing with not just Barzell, but also a guy like Wahlstrom. So,
he can get the puck back and get it to Wahlstrom.
Yeah.
Like who's going to shoot it. So that's kind of where Parise's game is right now.
Parise also does like to hang out around the front of the net, so it's not too different than if Lee were to be there, except Parise is much faster than Lee.
Well, you have two guys on that line now that can get the puck back.
Yes,
Parise said in that
right,
clip, right, the 50-50 battles, like
right,
between him and Barzell, it's a lot of speed up there.
yeah,
Something that you hope that they're looking for in the offseason. I don't look if it's not Wahlstrom on that first line and if Parise comes back and it's Parise, Barzell, and blank, that's also fine. You get another guy that can score goals and create depth somewhere in the lineup. I think that's awesome. But yeah, I think they're able to get those pucks back a lot easier where Lee couldn't do it and Wahlstrom couldn't do it. So the three of them
right.
were never going to be on the line together because you can't have Barzell be the only guy that can skate.
Yeah, I mean, but in lieu of that, it was also good to see that while Wahlstrom was skating with them, he didn't look like he was a couple steps behind. He looked like
Oh
he
no,
was
his
keeping
role is very
pace
different. He
just
understands.
fine.
Yeah, it's like when there were two kind of faster players playing with Lee,
Yeah,
right?
so
Like Lee's job is to get in front of the net. Wahlstrom's job is to find a spot to shoot from. So
right.
you have two other guys getting in the puck. It just makes his all three of them can play their role a little bit easier.
Yeah, so I think that's a line that at this point in the season, I don't see any reason why they can't stay together. Get Barzell and Wahlstrom acclimated. If the goal is to have Wahlstrom and Barzell play together at some point, like Trotz has alluded to in the past, I hope he could be that player. That is the plan for him to be that player at some point in his career. So get them, to get that chemistry now. Go into next season having that familiarity. I could say words. And get rolling right from the get-go. Don't have that period where they need to get to know each other still. In training camp. Have them play together in training camp too. Start next season with them on the same line. And that pass first mentality complements that shoot first mentality real well. And whoever's rounding out that line, whether it's Parise or Pavilier or UFA or trade guy, that line has the potential to be very dangerous as it was last night. Nassaumen Hockey is brought to you by DraftKings. The NHL season has been packed with dirty dangles, hat tricks, and big wins. As the action rolls on, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has your shot to win big too. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's right, a bump in the win column for your team means free bets for you. If Sportsbook isn't available yet in your state, you still have a shot to light the lamp. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Hockey Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code THPN, bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. 21 plus, restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Nassaumen Hockey is also brought to you by Manscaped. The champions of below-the-waist grooming, Manscaped, our proud sponsors, have done it again with the launch of the brand new Ultra Premium Collection. From trimming your hockey pucks to your everyday grooming and hygiene routine, Manscaped is here. After lighting the lamp, hit the showers with this all-in-one skin and hair kit routine that covers you from head to toe, literally. Manscaped is trusted below the waist, now trust them with the rest. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code NHP20. We all know the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer has the precision of McDavid to trim below the waist. Their advanced skin-safe technology reduces cuts to your most delicate areas. But now, you can enhance your perfect grooming routine and confidence with their Ultra Premium Collection. This package includes Manscaped's Premium Deodorant for your stinky armpits after hitting the ice. This deodorant dries clear, is aluminum-free, and cologne-infused with their signature scent. Hydrating body moisturizer. Long day at the rink? This will keep skin feeling clean, smooth, and smelling fresh. Body wash to lather you up with their infused aloe vera and sea salt shower gel. 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner to clean your lettuce with an easy one step. Plus, a free gift, a 3-pack set of lip balm to keep your trash talk firing on all cylinders. The boys will be buzzing after cleaning up with this superstar lineup from Manscaped. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code NHP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code NHP20 at manscaped.com. Don't be a goon. Upgrade your hygiene routine with the Ultra Premium Collection for Manscaped to fight your bush and odor this season. All right, so we wanted to close out the episode with some final trade deadline thoughts. A week from yesterday, as you're hearing this, the trade deadline will have passed. And like we said earlier, the first domino has fallen. Josh Manson to the Colorado Avalanche. And we have a number of names up on the board that we're going to talk about, starting with Cal Clutterbuck. All has gone quiet as far as what I know regarding Cal Clutterbuck. However, that does not mean that things can't pick up within the next week. In my opinion, of any of the expiring contracts for the Islanders that they could potentially trade, Clutterbuck will retrieve them the most value.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Although again, Parise is playing really well. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. We'll get to him in literally in a second. Clutterbuck, I'm not sure. And I don't know, just like kind of an overarching thought on the Islanders as the trade deadline gets closer. I don't know. Like, I think we used to put a lot of stock in, like, oh, well, we're not hearing anything, so Lou must be up to something. I think we kind of have to put that notion to bed a little bit, at least think differently about it. Like, that's not the tell we think it is. It was, I think, in the summer when it was, it was a bunch of players that were like, I don't want to say lower down the totem pole as far as free agents were concerned. It's like, yeah, Parise and Chara and these contracts, like they were all Islanders. They were all pretty close to the organization one way or another. Like, you can't apply that in this case when it's dealing with other teams. When it has to do with the Islanders, yeah, they're going to keep things quiet. Parise may already have a deal. Any one of these players may have a deal for next season set up, an extension. And Lou wouldn't say anything, right? Because for whatever reason, whether he has it in his own head and he's going to do it, or whether they've talked to the player. So, but I don't know that it's the same tell as it was. It's not situational. I think it's a little bit different. So I just want to throw that out there too.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. But as far as Clutterbuck is concerned, he is due for a contract. So whether they feel he is part of the future plans or not remains to be seen. Listen, I'm of the opinion that although there is significant interest in Cal Clutterbuck, again, what we saw from the team this week is shades of what they believed they could be. And listen, I don't think that they protected Matt Martin and Casey Cizikas. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think they protected Matt Martin and Clutterbuck to re-sign Casey Cizikas and then let Clutterbuck walk away the next season.
I think it depends on
But again,
no,
things
that's not
have changed.
Things have changed. So the plans have changed. And as I've been saying, I won't spill on what I really think might happen at this deadline, but you have to make an impact deal. Whenever that is, whether that's at the deadline or it's in the summer, at the draft, whatever.
Okay.
You have to make an impact.
That was going to be my question to you, because I wouldn't be surprised. Now, look, I know I've written about and spoken about there is chatter around the Islanders and interest in some of their players, and for sure those things have come from reputable sources. However, I also wouldn't be surprised if not much happened because of how important the summer could be. Now, I don't know if Clutterbuck getting traded for, let's just say he goes for a third rounder, does much for you in the summer. Yeah, you get a prospect at least in the draft in the third round who will help you win in 2025, 26, right? So
but keeping him doesn't do anything. Like, he's going to walk away.
Also that. But you also have the opportunity to sit there and say to him before the deadline, hey, do you want to come back next year? I'm probably only going to pay you like $1.5-2 million, but do you want to come back next year?
I mean, that might be part of why he gets traded, is that they can't agree on a deal beforehand.
And that is also a possibility.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know I've brought that up before. Like, I think it's happened before where a player gets traded and they get brought back the following season to the team that traded them. I don't know how likely that is in this case. I think with Zarnik being back and around the team, with Parise kind of being the Swiss Army knife that he is up and down the lineup, I really don't know if you need him around. You have it. You have a Martin replacement in Johnston.
Yeah, okay.
If he goes, I think it's going to be emotional and a little sad for sure. I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take his accomplishments away. I'm not saying I want him to go, but if he left and it was $1 million opened up, considering it's not just $3.5 million off the book. If he comes back at $1.25, it's only $275 off the board. Whatever that math is, I can't. Yeah, $225 off the books. So we got to be careful when we're thinking about players returning and coming back. Like, all right, if Green comes back, he's coming back. It's another $750. If Parise comes back, it's another $750. So it's already another $1.5 million. That's you have to account for.
Right.
In his case, I don't know. You see other teams making really hard decisions on this front. Look at Toronto with Kadri, or whatever. I mean, I think very different player than Clutterbuck, but Clutterbuck means a lot to this team. But it doesn't mean that they can't redo it. And if it's maybe speeding things up a season or two quicker than they wanted to, like if Zarnik, Cizikas, blank was an option in the future, like that's the future fourth line of this team, simply based on Cizikas' contract. I don't know what Zarnik's situation is, but if that was the future, yeah, I mean, let him go. Save yourself the $1.5 million, $1.25 million. Figure it out. It doesn't save the full $3.5 million. In other words, get it all off the books. Let it stay off the books, and figure it out.
Yeah.
That the bottom of your lineup is where you can shelter a guy like Zarnik. All right, if you don't love him, that's where you can put him. It's not Wahlstrom in the middle six. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not the place to kind of mess around. You got Cizikas on a little bit longer of a deal. That's cheap. That's good. He's still valuable. Martin is what it is. You also have a Johnston around. Like, I don't know. Get something for him.
Right.
You're not. What are you keeping him for? I think that's more of my question. Why, if you're keeping him, if he stays, he's getting re-signed.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
So that's what I would, knowing nothing other than how Lou deals, like as we were saying, with guys close to the team. If he doesn't get signed, if he doesn't get traded, he's signed. Just put it down for whatever number you want. And
Zach Parise. I keep getting told when I ask that there's nothing really going on there, and that's surprising to me, because not that I think he should go. I think the Islanders could get something good for him? Yeah, probably like a mid-round, third round pick, fourth round pick. I just think that he's playing so well, and that he doesn't come at a very high cost, that surely any competitive or any playoff bound team could use his compete in their bottom six. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think he gets traded.
I don't think he does either, and I do think he's an Islander again next season.
100%.
I'm just surprised at the lack of interest.
I think it's because someone called, Lou said nope, and that was it. Word got around.
You think so? You think he said no? If someone was like, "Listen, I'll up it to a second round pick," you think he's not going to pull that trigger?
Maybe. I mean, I think. Are you looking at the long term? As you said before, what's that second round pick really gonna? Unless you're gonna flip it for something else.
We got Atu in the second round.
Yeah. Okay, that's completely fair. I think in this case, I don't think he gets traded. I like your point earlier that he's a good veteran to have around the team and train other players. I think you do want to bring him back. I think he's more valuable than that second round pick, because you just want him to be around these players. You want him to be around, talk about a player that that would really benefit from playing with a Parise down the line is a Bellows. Bellows has, I don't think he's nearly as quick, but some of that kind of straight up and down the ice kind of style that Parise has. Maybe even better hands than Parise. Parise was so quick and kind of silky back in the day. Maybe I'm forgetting a little bit, but Bellows is the player that you can really benefit from being around a guy like Parise.
Yeah.
Is him being around Wahlstrom and Bellows and maybe some other younger Ratu down the line, is that more beneficial than the second round pick? Does that mean more?
It's
I
a
don't
very
know.
good point.
I think maybe. Again,
Yeah,
if you
and
have the conversation that you're going to bring him back and look, we're going to get a third round pick for you, or even a second round pick. But I'm putting the contract in the drawer. Don't worry about it. I don't know. Parise, I don't think has any trade protection, but Lou, respects veteran guys. Like
right.
he's not going to move this guy across, especially, is the pandemic kind of waning for a second? Yes. Is it still like, kind of iffy out there for guys with families? Also, yes. So, you got to be careful with these relationships.
No,
These
of
guys
course.
aren't,
Yeah.
I don't think, interested in just kind of moving around. That's why a lot of players have trade protection. They want to at least control where they're going if they're going to go, especially if they have term. For the guys whose contracts are expiring, I don't know why they don't just waive altogether. Just go. If you're gonna not play for that team anyway, who cares? I don't. Even if you have I don't understand. Like I don't know what 4 months. I don't understand being away from your family, but you're away from them anyway, playing games and all that kind of stuff. Like I don't know. That is and maybe like a touchy subject if you're talking directly to players. But from where I sit, I'm like I don't know what you're doing. You have no trade.
Right.
Just go. If they just say like I want to go to a contender. I want a chance to win.
Yeah. I
Have
mean,
that conversation. But as far as Parise, I think they keep him. I'm not
I
sure
think they
whatever
do
they.
too. I'm just
Yeah.
surprised at the lack of inquiries.
I
That's all I'm saying.
I think
I'm
there
just
was,
surprised there.
and I think there was. Lou said, "No, I think
You
we'll
could be
keep
right.
him."
It's
And
a good point.
or he was like, "Okay, yeah, second round pick," and they were like, "No."
That's also
Lou was like, "All right, I'm gonna give you a number that you don't want to hear, and you can if you say yes, great, I win. And if you don't, I also win because I like the guy.
right.
So here we are. So I think he just kind of sticks around. I'm not sure it's anything more than that.
Andy Green. Nah, nothing. It's just he's gonna stay.
I think he's a 6'7" guy next season. He's a veteran guy. He spent his entire career in New Jersey. You're not shipping this dude again. I for a part of me is like, dude, if Calgary wants you for 4 months and then you can move back home, do that. Go do be a Mark
Sure.
Giordano or whatever. Like go try to win something out west and come back home. You're gonna be gone for like 4 or 5 months. What's the big deal? I also understand he's lived his entire life in the metro, the tri-state area, doesn't want to go, and that's the end of the conversation. He's just done. And again, is trading him more valuable than keeping him around for a guy like Dobson or something like that, or just kind of younger players? I don't know. And what are you going to get, a third or fourth for a Green to really be your seventh defenseman on another team?
No, you'll get like a fifth or a sixth.
Worth keeping him.
Yeah. Zdeno Chara. My feelings on this situation is that if he gets traded, it will be exactly how it was in the summer, where it was, will he sign with someone? Last minute, desperation, just need a seventh defenseman or a filling guy. I do know that there was interest by the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know if that is still a thing of interest. I mean, if he wants to go to a contender, then that's the one to go to. And if there was, or unless it's the Avalanche, but I haven't heard that they're interested. But the Lightning were. If that happens, Josh Manson just came off the board. Again, if they don't have any other options to turn to, I could see the Islanders flipping him there. And I don't imagine Chara says no at the chance to win another Stanley Cup.
I wonder if it's his last year and he's just like, yep. If someone's calling, let's talk about it. And if he's going to retire, it might make his decision a little bit different.
Yeah.
He's going to, I can't think of a player that kind of just did that near the end of his career. That was off the top of my head for some reason, like a Jerome McGinley or what, like just sure trade me anywhere. I'll look weird in another jersey for a second and and that'll be it. These are the last 4 months of my career. Sure, they'll be away from my family or whatever, but I can kind of live with that. He's not one of those players where I say, because he's not going to be around next year with this team, or I think fingers crossed he's not around. And I almost hate saying that because I think he does add value that we don't see.
He's been
or that we recognize
with Dobson of late.
Yeah, I don't know if the
should,
underlying numbers are very good. I think
I shouldn't say he's been excellent. The pairing has worked.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I want them to be good. I want it to be bad. It needs to be better than that. And he's simply not capable of it. Whether that's a stylistic thing or that's a skill thing at this point, he's just not capable of it, and it's shown.
Right.
There's, I think he was pretty invisible the other night in the best way. I barely remembered. I would see him out there. I'm like, oh yeah, he's not scratched this game. Like I honestly, against the Ducks, did not notice him. And that's the best case scenario for a player like him.
Absolutely.
Is to just be invisible. I think the Islanders need more than that. I think if you're a contender and you need a fill-in sixth guy or a seventh defenseman, he probably makes a ton of sense even just to have around your team. I don't know where he goes. I'm sure somebody's interested in having Zdeno Chara around. I don't think that's. I mean, even Andy Green, but maybe more so Chara, just because of his size and the snarl that he can bring, in one last run, if he is going to retire. Which, not a betting man, but I would put a few bucks down on that. This is it. This isn't how he thought it would go. I don't know how he finds another job next season with the salary cap the way that it is.
Indeed, confirmed the oldest player in sports.
Oh yeah, what the hell is that?
Before and after, and then before again, the Tom Brady retirement.
Yeah, his birthday is in March and Brady's is in August.
Yeah.
I can't. The Athletic put that out.
Yeah.
Look, Google is free. Google,
I like when I ask you a question, I'll text you a question and you just text me that free Google coupon. That's really fun for me. I love that.
So it's really funny. I had somebody work for me years ago that a few jobs ago that she was great and very quick learner and all that, but she just liked to ask a lot of questions. Like she was very, very curious. I wound up putting a thing above her desk to be like, I have a question. Did I Google it first? Like just to get her to be like, okay, I'm gonna Google it. Like I don't need to ask John every single question. So that was funny. So yeah, I send you as like a little throwback. It makes me feel better. I sent you the coupon.
John is the guy who yells at the kids to get off his lawn. Josh,
that's not the same thing. Don't. I mean, first of all, yes.
First of all, get off my lawn.
Yeah. First of all, absolutely get off my lawn. Don't do that. But that's not the same thing. That's in addition to that.
Josh Bailey. He's not getting traded at this trade deadline.
Off season.
If
maybe.
He does get traded, it's an off season thing. And I'm just still not convinced that he doesn't retire an Islander. I'm not.
I think I struggle. Look, yeah, he's putting up points and whatever. Thinking about the team moving forward, taking the next step, getting back into contention, being a better team this year on paper and on the ice going in the next season. To me, it just doesn't include Bailey. I don't know where you put him.
I don't disagree with you.
If the lines are gonna be blank, Barzell, Wahlstrom, Lee, Nelson, Beauvillier, blank, Pajot, Palmieri, fourth line. I mean, is it going to be Parise, Pajot, Palmieri, P cubed? Where I just don't see. I frankly see Parise as more valuable than Bailey.
I don't disagree with you.
I don't like looking at the lineup and seeing where the holes. And that's not to say that now that Chychrun's hurt, I don't know what that means. And as we said earlier about when he gets traded, that now might be an off-season move. Either way, the Islanders might need to trade Beauvillier. That might be the saving grace. If Beauvillier gets traded for that defenseman to play alongside Dobson or whomever, if Beauvillier gets traded, Bailey stays. If he doesn't get moved, I don't know where you put Bailey.
Yeah, and I think
I don't
that's
understand where he
probably
fits.
I think that's probably exactly the situation.
I don't. I wish I want to. I
think
want to
it-
be that right.
I
But
think
like, I guess
Bailey's
I just question. So you're then where are you putting Parise? Look, if it's Bailey, Peugeot, Palmieri, Parise, Cizikas, Martin Johnson, Sarnik, whatever, and that's your fourth line, I'm also fine with that. As long as Bailey is kind of down the lineup, playing with two guys that want to shoot the puck more in Peugeot and Palmieri,
right.
is getting a little bit limited in minutes, that's fine. I can live with that for the most part.
Right.
But yet, you actually have to do that. Like the lines actually have to reflect the skill and have a third line that's more of a third line, even though Palmieri and Peugeot are great. Lean on the top part of your lineup a little bit more. Just because Bailey's a veteran, you don't just put him on their power play. Yeah, he's scoring goals, sure, whatever. It's not consistent enough. You can't take this last week 3 games and go, wow, look at this. No, absolutely not. Nelson's been on a tear for a while. Lee's been good for a while. It culminated in a fantastic week. That's not what's happening with Bailey. It's been super aggravating. And then he scored a few. And everyone's like, see? No, not the same thing.
I agree with you. Scott Mayfield. Unless the Islanders are absolutely blown out of the water, it will take a first-round pick and a current NHL player who is young and will be part of the team for the foreseeable future. Scott Mayfield will not be traded.
We had I want to say arguments. There was a very lively discussion about this.
Yes.
Because our friends over at Isles Fix were tweeting about it right after I put the article out about Nelson and Mayfield last week that they shouldn't be traded.
Kudos to you.
I just don't see your right side of Pulock, Dobson, Mayfield that's a good right side as long as Mayfield's your third pair
right
defenseman. That's kind of the idea. If it's Green / Salo, Mayfield as your third pair, and what you're looking for is a second pair defenseman to go alongside Dobson, and obviously your Pellick Pulock as your first pair, that's so much easier to get. Right? Like what you have to work with is so much better. To have to get a second and a third pair makes you have to do something like Chara. Don't put yourself in a position like that, or that you're pushing Salo into the lineup sooner than you should have. Salo and Dobson are not going to be a pair, not next season.
No,
I think recognizing that as fans for a second, putting your realistic hat on. Salo at best is going to be splitting time with Green next to Mayfield next season. That's okay.
I think that's a great third pairing.
I think that's fantastic. It gets everybody. It could be Salo and Green a bunch of times, but I think having Mayfield, having that righty, having that right side solidified, and only needing to get a left second pair defenseman, and then a first line winger. I think, and again, if you have Bailey and Parise coming back, you don't need to fill 2 spots. I know we talked about that before. You don't need to fill Beauvillier's spot. You could have Lee, Nelson, Bailey, and that's kind of okay. It's not great, but it could work. I can understand doing it, and have or Parise or whatever, and then you're just filling the L2 spot on D, and your first line left wing spot. That's a lot more doable. It's a lot less money in and out and around. Yeah. Mayfield's on a great deal. He's been an Islander for a long time. He's a homegrown guy. I don't make another mistake and have him go be. He's not, Ristolainen where he's just terrible. Like he's so much better than that.
He's not Ristolainen who's terrible, but Ristolainen got $5.1 million for the next 5 years. Do I think Scott Mayfield will get that? No. But when
Fletcher is also a moron.
When I entertain the idea that Scott Mayfield's camp now has a base to work with in negotiations, it like threw Islanders Twitter for a loop that it was the craziest thing to even fathom. And the truth of the matter is that they're similar players, and Scott Mayfield's better than Ristolainen. They play similar styles.
Yeah, I think that's where you lose people, though. Like, you say that, and like it just wasn't clear that that's what you meant. I understood because I know, like,
either way, the Scott Mayfield camp now has a base to work with in negotiations. Is he going to get $5 million? No, I don't think so. But are they going to start there and ask for it? Yes, they're going to.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
doesn't mean he's going to get it.
Yeah, I know how to negotiate. Like, I don't know. He's a $3 million player for the Islanders. He might get more somewhere else. I think he likes being an Islander.
Right, and that's how it all works.
Now, is it as a third pair, $3 million a little expensive? Yes and no. I mean, Saddle's going to be cheap. Green's going to be cheap. Dobson's still cheap unless he's up this season.
He's due for a contract. So
he's due for a contract. So yeah, okay. So that kind of depends. He might get 4. So you're talking about, and then you have to fill that L2 spot. So trading him isn't going to help.
Right.
And he's not due for a contract until the season after. So you don't have to worry about that. So the dollars need to work. That needs to be a consideration when people are doing this. If he's cheap now, keep him. And then because you're not gonna find a better third pair defenseman for cheaper.
Right.
Or you're gonna and you've seen that, right? Look, Chara, blah blah blah. He's not been great on a consistent basis. And yeah, he's cheaper, but you're getting what you pay for.
Right. Exactly.
He's not a young player. He's supposed to bring veteran experience. If he's doing that off the ice, then I suppose you're getting most of what you pay for, but the product it also suffered on the ice. So you have to take that into consideration.
Last but not least, Semyon Var Lamov. This one is interesting because I asked a source about Var Lamov and the situation in Colorado. I know that they're interested, but then the Avs extended Francois. And I asked if that took them out of the running for Varlamov, and the source said, quote, not necessarily, meaning that there is still interest. And I expanded on that, asking if that meant Francois could end up coming the other way, and the answer I got was maybe. Circling back to Vegas's interest, Leonard is out again, and that's a team that, like we said earlier, is just spiraling. They have a ton of injuries, and they'll probably make moves at the deadline because that's just what they do. But with no clear answer in net, I wonder if they could get desperate and circle back to Varlamov. I think it's possible. So, with no clear answer in net and with the question marks moving forward, I wonder if it makes sense for Vegas to acquire a goaltender with term like Varlamov. However, on the flip side of that, again, this week we've seen shades of what they thought they could be. Do they maybe just want to hold on to Varlamov and at minimum move him in the offseason instead of at the trade deadline, or keep him for that last year on his contract and go at it again next year with a good 1A, 1B. I don't know if it works out money-wise for them if they really want to make a big splash in the offseason, but at the same time, he's been a big part of who they were the past few seasons and with all the success. You're muted. We have a podcast. We do this for a living, kind of.
I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. So I think in theory he retrieves more at the deadline, but the teams that could use him and actually give up assets don't have the room for him in the cap. So there's not as big of a market, which could actually drive the price down. So in theory, that might be true. In practice, right now, I don't know that that's the case. I think if you are going to do it, you do it in the off season when teams have that flexibility. They can kind of figure things out. It also gives the Islanders the ability to make a decision and start scouting for a backup and start thinking about who that might be. And let Skarek finish out the season in Bridgeport to see if he's a possibility to move up next season. I know he's played really well. He had goaltender of the month or player of the month not too long ago with Bridgeport. I know they're having a little bit of a tough season, but both goalie whisperers with the Islanders kind of know what they have in him most likely and are paying attention to that. I'm sure communication is pretty constant, knowing that this is a possibility, whether it's this season or after next season. Skarek might get tapped to be Sorokin's backup. So I think it winds up being a little bit better where there's just more types of offers in the offseason or like starting at the draft as opposed to at the deadline. I don't think if he doesn't want to go to Canada, that cuts down a lot of teams. You have to remember he has another year left. So if you trade him to like a Toronto who's in the East, who you might have to play in the first round, depending on how things shake out, if you're a wild card or they're a wild card and you're, if they're leading the division next year, like you don't want to be in that position to, play this guy and then have him, hate play you and stand on his head. So that takes a lot, it takes Canadian teams out. It takes Eastern Conference teams out, unless they just get a ransom for him. I don't know how many teams that ultimately leaves. Is that 2 or 3 teams? Is that enough to drive up the price? I don't think so.
Yeah, right now the only teams that probably would work for Varlamov, I'm now a big question mark on Colorado, despite the information I previously stated. Edmonton, which I'm told he will not waive for, and yeah, Vegas, maybe Toronto. That pure speculation on my boss's David Pagnotta's part. The other day in his trade rumblings video via the fourth period, pure speculation because the Toronto's having goalie issues right now. Mrazek is just not playing well at all. Jack Campbell is hurt. So do they want to take a crack at it? Would Varlamov even trade to go anywhere in Canada? The answer, we don't know.
Wave. Yeah, I think that's a really tough trade. They also have cap issues. They're right up against it as well. I know they have a defenseman that's been out. I don't know if he's on LTIR.
Jake Muzzin.
Yeah, and then here the issue is that means that they have Mrazek signed for next season.
Right.
They like Jack Campbell.
Right.
So they can't do Varlamov is not an option for them because he has another year left. If it was an expiring deal, absolutely.
Now,
but they likely want to bring Campbell back, and they already have Mrazek. So that just the 3-headed monster in goal. Toronto just can't handle that as far as the cap's concerned.
We do have to consider the fact that 3 teams have stated that they are willing to broker deals and take on contracts. That's the Coyotes, that's the Sabres, and that is the Kraken. So those are 3 destinations who maybe these 3-team trades could work out for. The Coyotes have essentially nobody playing for them next season. So I wonder if they're going to be in the mix of a bunch of 3-team deals. But again, your point is well said. It would be difficult to do without that 3rd team. So if none of those teams
the
get
3rd
in the
team,
mix,
you have 3 goalies for next season in Toronto. Then they're bringing back Jack Campbell.
Well, I mean, one of those 3rd teams, I'm assuming, would have to take like a Peter Mrazek.
That's entirely possible,
right?
So I think that's a tough. God, he's been terrible.
Oh, it's tough, absolutely. But again, if the Coyotes are going to be playing in front of 5,000 fans next season, and they're going to just throw together the goon squad.
Less than 5,000.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter who's in net.
No. He is signed for probably way too long. Maybe another 3 or 4 seasons. So that's a little tough.
Peter Mrazek is signed for 3 seasons?
Maybe he's on a 3-year deal, so he's got 2 left after this. That would be the best case scenario for a team like Toronto.
That's
so I don't know much about their goaltending depth in terms of prospects or whatever. Peter Mrazek this season and 2 more at 3.8.
Yeah, so he's got 2 more after this.
Yeah, and that's a tough look.
Yeah, I mean, with the Coyotes having essentially no goaltenders, that could work out for them. But this is not a Maple Leafs podcast, so we will stop talking about Peter Mrazek and.
Well, it's a Varlamov conversation. Like I said, I think they want to bring back Campbell. Varlamov's a good tandem if they can make it work. Then does Dubas have the horses? They do have They have an expiring guy in Ilya Labushkin. I don't really know a whole lot about him. He's at 1.3. He's 27. Almost,
He just
yeah,
came over from the Coyotes.
yeah. So like, is he really worth being part of that deal? Hit that in a first round pick or a second round pick, and that does he fill that second pair for you?
Well, I do know,
and sign him in the offseason? I don't know. I'm not hearing amazing things about this guy. So not to say it's bad, but like he's not popping up in my feed all the time
Yeah.
as a player to look out for. So like,
no, I mean, I do know, and I do think that this is the hot seat for Kyle Dubas right now. A couple first round exits. He might be desperate to make some sort of deal happen. I'm not saying it has to be for Varlamov. It might be for somebody in net. If it's not Marc-Andre Fleury and it's not Semyon Var Lamov, I'm not sure who it would be, because at that point, is anybody really a difference maker worth moving for? I don't know. But that is the speculation on Varlamov. Not really sure if he will or will not be moved at this deadline. I do know there's interest, but not necessarily enough to make that deal happen.
I
Your
hear
final
that.
thoughts?
I worry that the team keeps having success and it means they don't do as much as they need to.
No,
I agree that
not this offseason.
I want to believe that. Like I've said a bunch of other times, as when the calendar changes over to 2022, I don't believe it until I see it. And it's just not to say that Lou hasn't done it, but he has to. He's not done big offseason stuff. He's brought in
Look,
Palmieri. He's done Pajot. Sajak was great. He's done some great things getting money off the books. But this is not the offseason for off the books. This is an
I think
offseason for big impact moves.
I think that this is a conversation that's best suited for next week, because we will know a lot more next episode 101, officially in the triple digits for a long time. We will know a lot more next week. As of right now,
I believe you.
Philip Forsberg is still without a contract with the Predators.
They are not trading for him.
I'm not saying no, not that. I just know
offseason.
I have been told that there is a plan in place to try and lure Philip Forsberg to Long Island if he hits free agency. So, look, I think this offseason they know that they need to acquire. One, absolutely need to get someone on the blue line, and two, they know that they need another impact forward. So, I don't think that this is the summer that they sit back and do nothing, because if they do that, then I believe Lamoriello could lose the faith of ownership.
Yeah, he's got to make. And I think the thing is, and why I think players like Clutterbuck and all those little $2 to $3 million deals get off the books for the Islanders. I mean, it makes it tough for some of these young players. I think Bellows is still an RFA. Dobson needs a deal. Wahlstrom might also need something.
Wahlstrom does not need a deal next
Wahlstrom doesn't.
summer.
Bellows does.
Bellows does.
Dobson does. Sebastian Aho doesn't. I don't know. Robinsell, I doubt needs anything until next season or after that.
Robinsell will have one more year on his contract.
So if you can get things off the books, like if you can figure out a way to get a Bailey to go, you obviously get Char to go. Bailey, I think, is really, really hard. And I honestly don't think that happens one way or another, unless, like I said earlier, Beauvillier winds up staying. But there's enough money to go off the books next season that you can really make you can throw some money at a player. You got to be careful because Barzell needs a deal in a couple of years. So like not after this season, after next season. So you do have to be careful with that. There's a lot of money locked up in, $5 million plus in a lot of other players.
Yeah.
You have to find a way to save some money somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think that there are some players that might go. Like if you can save 3.5 with Clutterbuck, that's that much more you can throw at a second pair defenseman and that top four. He just needs to do it.
Quick final thoughts on the 50th anniversary patch that was released today.
If that's actually it,
That's it. That was
I
what
don't-
was emailed to season ticket holders.
that was if that's the 50th anniversary logo, that might not even be finished. That doesn't seem finished to me.
Okay.
I feel like there's something like a background. It's gonna be on a patch. I wonder what color. Like, is it a white patch with that? Like it's the golden anniversary. I see what they did there. If I'm remembering correctly, 25 is silver, so gold sounds like it's 50. At least in my head. Someone can correct me. There's got to be more to it than that. It seems a little unfinished. It may have looked different on paper. I don't know what the background of the paper looked like. I didn't see an actual sheet where maybe it looks better with a different background. We kind of saw it not in a vacuum, but in a very specific situation. I just don't think. And considering the other, and I did a oh, and someone sent the 10th anniversary one too. I couldn't even find that, so I'm glad someone did that. I did a thread of all the other patches.
Yeah.
And they don't look quite like that. They're a little more designed in one way, shape, or form. So something tells me that that's not the whole thing yet.
Yeah. I don't love it. I don't hate it.
It looks like the
don't
20th
really
anniversary
care.
one. Like it's got the same vibe as a 20th anniversary one with the 4 cups behind it. I
Okay.
don't think that that's what they're going to do. But the other ones are way more designed than that. So you'd think it'd be something else.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. The other ones also didn't have Lou Lamoriello in the front office chair when
Captain Boring.
when those patches were made. But I think that about wraps it up for our first episode in the triple digits. I keep saying that just because I'm really proud of where we are, man. I mean, 100 episodes. Who would have thought?
Not me. I mean, only, because these things come and go and people get busy and anything can just kind of to stop, especially like on
Fizzle
the
out,
creative side. What's that?
Things fizzle out,
Yeah, things fizzle out, and this wasn't how it started.
No.
99 episodes ago was not this.
Right.
Come
a long way, man.
Come a long way. We've got great partners. We've had great sponsors. We've had great guests.
Yeah.
I think we've been lucky. The pandemic may have been really bad for hockey. It wound up being okay for this because we put a lot more time into it. We had a little bit more time to put into it. And people were dying for hockey when it was on pause, and we kind of just powered through. Even this past summer, like, what between the Islanders Game 7 and the beginning of the season, like we're very rarely have we taken a week off and just like not done it.
Yeah.
So in 2 years, 100 episodes is pretty consistent. That's 52 weeks in a year. We do one a week. Like maybe it should be a 200. But we there's also a lot of other episodes that don't count towards this 100.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
the live post games and
all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of stuff. So yeah, pretty cool. Proud of you, proud of us. And that's about it for episode 100. Want to say thank you to DraftKings. Use that THPN promo code with DraftKings. And want to say thank you to Manscaped. Use that NHP20 promo code with Manscaped. Thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network. Thank you to Islesfix. And of course, thank you to all of you, our listeners, through 100 episodes. I can't stop saying it. It feels good. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Nassaumen Hockey. You can find my work at the Fourth Period. You can find John's work at the Hockey Writers. And check out Islesfix, an excellent curated Islanders newsletter. Until next time, let's go Islanders.